verse right here. I like the book of Psalms, man. David was awesome. It says, "Oh Lord, how long will you forget me? Never, forever. How long will you look the other way? Question mark." It also says, "How long must I struggle with anguish in my soul, with sorrow in my heart every day? How long will my enemy have the upper hand? Turn and answer me, O Lord, my God. Restore the sparkle to my eyes, or I will die. Do not let my enemies gloat, saying, we have defeated him. Don't let the don't let don't let them rejoice in my downfall. But I trust you in the unfalling love. I will rejoice because you have rescued me. I will sing to the Lord because he is good to me." Amen. That's in the book of Psalms 13. I'm telling you, people, that's why after good meals, God blessed me. I've been to, the people have tried to defeat me a couple of times, and they can because I have God's presence in my life, man. I always go with standard of God. Rededicating and coming back to the Lord is awesome, man. You can never go wrong with the scriptures or with the Bible, especially if you have a good wifey. This is what happens to your man. She knows what's up. You have, support. That's all that matters. But this is what matters the most to us. It's right here. Getting that educational. So, got one view. Hit that like button. You're coming in. What's up, people? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the good presence of God, Or at least I am, for sure. Today we got a blessed week, Gotta go take care of our business. Opportunities that Big D is gonna come through. It's out there, I haven't been publicity putting it out there. I don't put my business out there too much. I just pray, get on my knees, and let God do the work. So when it happens, you guys just say, "Oh, Big D's this, Big D's that." You guys always knew because I was always on the standard of the good homie, right? I was always believing, trusting in this word. That's why I go by praying. I meet good people out there. All you guys who have subscribed to me are good people, man. I pray for you guys all. I pray for all my followers. You guys are a blessing, because you guys believe. You guys know my fruit, You guys know that God has, that's where they judge you at. You by your fruit. We have a good tree right here. It's growing from the bottom up, So you can trust me. I put the word, I'm putting the word in, trusting in God, believing in God, putting him first. Make sure y'all would do that, Put God first. And try to be good standard. Not saying that my kids, my baby girl is all wild and all she ain't there. I'm just trying to be a good example of what she is. Try to make the standards for her. And that's what it is, right? When you have a family, it's all about making a good presentation of who you are and what you are. Because what it was, she already knows, she already heard it. What it was, you guys know, you guys seen, heard. I trip out how people coming out and people are testing each other's standards, look at their paperwork and this and that. I don't have to do none of that. You want to look at my paperwork? Here it is. Here's my paperwork right here. The uncertainty of life. This is my paperwork. This is what I go by. You don't have to go by, a Big D's done this. No, I don't have to worry about that stuff, I wasn't put in that measurement. God didn't have me to go there and none of that stuff. I just believe in my trustworthy who I am. It's crazy too, because, I've been forgiven and a lot of you guys have been forgiven too. That's why I love God, because he has forgiven us. He went to die for us in the cross, for we can be forgiven. And I see all you guys want to be judgmental, but you got to be careful because what you put out there is real stuff, You got all these people looking. And that's why I think it's really the presentation of what happens. Oh, you want to say hi? Say hi to the peeps. Yes. Say hi. What's up? Hello, we got to hit that like button. If you're on your way here in Orange County 5Q, hit that like button. Hit the like button, And that's why I've been tripping out, because I'm tired. I don't got time for BS, we really don't. Just like you guys see one of my shorts, the homie, if I could promote anything, go check out the homie Jaguar Man. He's cool, man. There's people that have been some places. They've been to some rough places, man. But you got to understand that they're not the only ones. We all have been through tough places, gone through tough times, and our journeys have been, we caused a lot of our journeys, to happen, take forth place here and there. That's why I'm looking forward to the future, like, because our journey being helpful. We have a lot of things presented to us, and it comes from the goodwill of God's church, His home, because God's married to the church, right? He can come back. He's gonna come back to the church. He's coming back for His people. He's coming back for us, And there's ways that you have to by yourself. Are you speak Arabic? No, I don't. I only speak Espanol, poquito, a little bit of Spanish. It's my heritage, where God's put me in. I can't forget my grandparents. You guys know my testimony already. Big D was without a father. Thank God I had the Heavenly Father, because that's where I'm at right now. He's been a godly God to me, and has presented Himself. I look at the good standard. Fatherless, because a father is important to your family, right? He brings structure, he brings obedience, he brings guidance, and I thank God I had a mother that introduced me to His word. It makes a lot of sense, and that's where I live my life from. I know the fruits, so I'm trying to resemble now that, where I'm at and where I'm going forth. And whoever has encountered me has, they're being blessed. Look at them, they're doing what they're doing, and that's cool, because I know God has a destination, a promise for me and for all of us. Follow His will. That's why I say, put God first. It says in the Bible, put Him first, and all things are possible. And that's what I do. That's what I've been doing. I encountered the streets, here or there because of my disobedience. I had a lot of us are stubborn. We'll disobey. We don't listen. I had. But through those disobedience, God has shown us that He could have been here, He could have done this could have happened, that could have happened, but it didn't happen to me. That's why I was very respectful. That's why I put God first. A lot of y'all just seen, some difference and some changes in my life. That's good. I want you to see things, because I don't stay stagnant forever. I don't stay, that's what's thinking about YouTube. Everybody's all the same. If not, they go out and they copy and they do this. Nah, I'm changing, little by little. I ain't perfect. I ain't better than nobody. I'm not a God. I serve a God. I'm not better than nobody. I just speak what's happened to my life. Since this is YouTube, you guys want to know what I do and what I encounter and the challenges. And I do good standards, to be helpful, and that's up to you guys. If you guys want to just stick by me and support me still, hey, you're not just supporting me, you're supporting the good standard. You see me in church now. Of course, I support the wife, which is cool, She's my family. I got to do what I got. I got to support my kids. And all I'm trying to do is be a good role model, because they judge you. People are judgmental, and they judge you by your fruits and your character. And I understand that. They go out, are you this, are you that? Like, hey, you guys know I serve, one God. I am myself presentable, and a lot more things are going to come. You guys are going to see, and I want you guys to be like, wow, how did he do this? How did he do that? Hey, just trustworthy, bro. Trustworthy, peeps. Obey. I'm just being obedient. I want you to say, how did he get there? How do you do this? How do you do that? Just be trustworthy. Believe who you are, right? Don't you trust yourself? Sometimes you can't even trust yourself. The Bible says, because, you got to put all trust in Him. And I think that's a blessing. That's good. That's remarkable, because we all have good standards, good notions. A lot of us have been through some situations, good and bad, and we pray to God back then, like, Lord, help me through this. You can't call God on your down standards. You have to call Him, on your good standards too. You can't just call Him when you're going through stuff, which He says you can. Call upon me, He'll direct your path, right? Scriptural is scriptural, man. That's why I follow the good book, that what's been played out 2,000 years. Everybody says, why you follow God? Because I believe He's the first gangster. What? Jesus was a gangster. He was a gangster to me. He died for the homies. He died for us, that we won't have our sins. It takes a lot of guts for God. And that's why I believe in God, because He sent His only Son, That's what I liked about it. John 3:16, man. He sent his only begotten son. So God was a parent himself. He sent Jesus down here to live and to die for our sins so we won't go to hell and burn forever. I mean, imagine a little fire stove is, to me, is a big ouchie. Or imagine our whole body being like that, burning forever. Like, nah, I can't live like that. And that's why I like God, because he talks about heaven. He talks about gold. The streets are made of gold. Look at the ridge. Or I'm telling you, man, it talks about everything right there. There's promises, who came. We all know about the story of Adam and Eve. I mean, come on, man. Don't deny him, because God would deny you, and that's the place where it's at. I'm a spiritual person. I believe. I know that I am. Because where I come from and what I believe in, very spiritual. I'm a very spiritual person. That's how I know. Everybody's saying, "Oh, discernment comes from prison," or discernment. I don't. Discernment comes from the God. It's a gift from God. He says he's gonna leave us, right, with discernment. So I go by that. I can see things coming, a mile away, or they come and go. I can see it because I'm trustworthy. So is God. I can see God would tell me, "Hey, well, you gotta be careful here. You gotta be careful there." Like, all right, don't do this, don't do that. A lot of y'all are just like, you guys, like, oh, don't read this book, don't read that book. Like, I don't get that. Everything has been positive towards me and been blessing. I mean, look where I'm at. Where I was before, God has blessed me, and still a little empty in here. I gotta bring my stuff. But it's beautiful, right? So whatever God gives you, make sure you're thankful. A lot of us ain't thankful. You ain't thankful for today. You ain't thankful for this and that. How you start your day is crazy. Keisha, good morning, sis. Got good friends. Good friends are a blessing. Because you speak to them. Because you be surprised what people go through, and they'll let you know. They'll let you know. Come at them right. Or good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's already that time, right? Yeah, my bad. It's already 3 o'clock. Like the morning, because it's all cloudy up where I'm at. I just had breakfast, so I'm thinking it's morning. My bad. I ain't perfect. You guys know. But whatever you do, put God first. A lot of us have pain is the same. A lot of us go through the same stuff. Our relationships and our family. And what's crazy is that you see a lot of posts, right? Pray for this, and people are always believing in prayers, but you guys won't put God first, But how you start your day, that's what I'm telling you. Don't be ashamed of God, because you can't just call God, when you're going through something. Call him when, at all times. And say, it's okay being rainy here, so I now feel this morning like, yeah, it's cold. I put a jacket. It's cold over here. Winter's coming. Seasons are changing. That's why we thank God for changing seasons, because he changes everything all the time, right? And it's cold one season, it's hot one season, another season, you got the fall, you got spring, and that's what's because the world has a system like that. It created the season because they know that God has created the momentum, and that's why we follow what God has said, because they know that it gets cold, it gets hot, it gets the springtime, things grow. I mean, they know, and that's the beautiful thing about it is just like, if they're following the way the system is, why not follow the true transparency of Jesus? That's the way it is. Follow the full transparency. It talks about all this on what I'm saying in this good book, right? It says, "Heck, I'm bundled up in the blankie." Oh yeah, you could be bundled up, man. Bundle up, Bundle up, cause this seasons are changing. So I'm looking right here with y'all. We already read the morning. You start the day off right? Start your day off with the King. He calls himself the King, the Creator. I mean, I follow creation, I follow the King, he is a king, a man of forgiveness, a God of forgiveness. I'm going to serve that. All y'all serve this and that, I don't start my day off like that. I serve a king, I serve a God, a king, so I go righteous, And a lot of y'all see me and say, oh, Big D has changed. You guys see me, I was in this fashion, that fashion, with this person, with that person. I do my own thing. I run with God, and I run with Him, and He tells me to change things. I change the narrative. I obey. One thing, I'm a very humble person. I'm very obedient, because the Bible says obedience is better than sacrifice. Been through a lot of funerals lately. A lot of my family members have passed, and tragically too. That they didn't just pass away of old age. Some have. My uncle Gilbert, my aunt Nancy. It's cool. But I lost my cousin tragically. He was in a car accident. DUI hit him. And had the support of the homies come over. Like, wow, that's cool. You guys seen me a few weeks ago. I was with the homies, and they know what's up. They don't judge me. If you go kick it with the homies, I mean that's good standards. Because they know my fruits. So I talk about a good thing. I'm not negative. A lot of people on here too. They say, "Hey, I'm a motivational speaker, and I could do this." I'm very positive about everything. Because I trip out on people sometimes. They come in with a lot of hate and anger. You shouldn't be like that. Come in with your positivity. Why is it so? Is it hard for you to be positive? I trip out on people. They come with their negative. I don't got time for that. Like the homie said, I don't got time for that. I only have time for positivity and create, because positivity creates creativity. I'm all about the creation of being positive. So when I'm out there, don't say, "Oh, Big D's negative." No, I don't got time for that. I was negative all my life, and it didn't bring me nothing. It brought me a lot of misery. It brought me the loss of violence. I seen it at firsthand. It could be, I'm all about positivity. So if you're a positive person, be like that, stay like that, be supportive. It's easy to be rejective and to be dispositive. You go there and you hate and this, and you see a lot of that. That's all the way life has been. Oh, I used to like this person, I don't like that person. I used to be with this person, but I'm divorced from this person. Like, nah. Stay together. What happened to unity, to togetherness? It's all about. I believe in unity and togetherness, because negativity brings, I don't want to kick it with them, brings, like, I don't want nothing to do with them. Negativity brings separation, division. I'm not that type of person. I'm always been positive what I do and how I do things and who I associate with. And I mean, why do you think I have a lot of followers? A lot of people I knew, were from back then. A lot of people coming, like Keisha, I know, because we kicked it because I was positive. She ain't kick it with somebody negative. Would you guys kick it with somebody negative? We've been to the mountains together. We move different. Yeah, everybody has different. We do. I took her out to some places. Like, "Hey, Big dear, aren't you married?" Yeah, I took her out as I welcomed her. Me and my wife, we welcomed her family. We went to some places, we hung out, and we had a beautiful day. And that's all. We make it like that. It's up to you. We let that foundation. What kind of foundation are you leaving? Are you leaving something positive or something negative? Even Keisha said she had a blast. She had a blast that day. That's what we bring. But every time we introduce things, it's up to you to follow, to meet us there, to go there. And that's how I met a lot of people on YouTube. We follow, made relationships with people on here. I didn't just say, "Oh, Big D, watch my channel." I didn't say all that. I made an exampleship. If you're gonna be my friend, like, "Hey, come and kick it." If I welcome you over here, and then you'll drive miles, to do that. It says, "Even now, I nearly died in the heat." There ain't no heat no more. That day was full. It was cool. The water was there, and that's what we do. We bring things to the presentation is always positive. Bring no negativity. Sometimes I have a different standard. I change my standards because I go with this says. This says, "Hey, you got to change your standards." And there's some things that I do and some things that I don't. Some of y'all like the changes. There's changes in our lives. We have to make those changes. We got a call. Let's see. Hold on. I'll call you back. I got. That's cool. I got moms calling. Mom's probably on my live right now saying, "Boy, you better preach it, teach it." That's the way it is. It was 100 degrees that day, but tell me you had a good time. The water was freezing though, and God created that day, and God creates everything, the mountains, the water flow, and all that stuff, we're able to enjoy his nature. I just brought homegirl over, me and my wife were there. We had food. It was beautiful that day, man. Go check out the video. We're just right there. We're just kicking it, man. We have videos of that day. I have a lot of videos. You guys gotta go out there. She goes, I didn't get in at the lace. Hey, just the lace will keep you cold. As long as it keeps you flowing, then it's all positive. And that's where I was in the water. I love water. I love when it rains. I love all those good standards. But we're right there just kicking back. The community is what counts, to togetherness. That's what counts. I make a good example of that. I just don't invite myself. I bring people over. All you got to do is show up, right? Yeah, and people tell you like, hey, you want to show up to church and show up. That's all you got to do. I can invite you here. Like, it's already the season of change getting cold. So if I say I'm going to go to the mountains, like, hey, show up. That's all I got to do. You want me, Big D, have a good presentation, good meal, good environment, right? We see everything. Like, I had great experiences all my life, man. You guys gotta know I had great experiences all my life. I don't have no shortcomings. I don't believe in shortcomings. I believe in longevity. Things last forever. I don't believe in something, this temporary. Like, if we had a good day this day, we could have a good day with another day. It's up to y'all to come, make it happen, let's talk about it. Make things happen. That's all we do. That's all I do, is make things happen. I was like that, and in the world, they say, I'm like that, still the same, the spirit, Keisha says, he'll be ready ready to be two already in my apartment. All right, that's cool. That's cool. The presentation, that's the way it is, It's always being ready. You gotta be ready in season, out of season. And it says like just the other day, Keisha, did you feel the earthquake? Yeah, the earthquake, I stepped my shoes on, I don't joke around, I had water in my car and everything. You gotta be prepared, There's always positivity, there's always destruction. People, a lot of times bring that, their negativity, they're jealous, or there's a lot of copycatters. They want you to. I don't got time for that. I'm just my lonesome. A lot of my presentations that come out, I get it from my wisdom. My YouTube comes from here. And God talks to me. I pray. When I tell God, like, what do you want me to talk about today, or what do you want me to do? It comes from his heart. I let the people know that, hey, it comes from him. That's where it comes from. A lot of my sources, my testimony. I have testimony, just like many of us do. We have testimonies, right? It comes from God, for word to where we're at now. And the blessings, come from God. I can't say, the devil blessed me today. The devil's not about that. He's all about destruction, a liar. I don't like that stuff, I don't believe in that stuff, And I was probably crashed out. He said, no, man, that's right. I believe in all in positivity, if it comes from everywhere, where we look, how we start our day, some of us go work out, some of us do this, what we eat, our presentation, how we live our life, it comes from the good old book, man. It comes from heaven up above. We can't depend on, I did it myself, I don't believe in self-worthiness, I'm an idol myself. That's why I give you guys a presentation, where to go, who to be thankful to. There's a higher source, there's a lower source and a higher source, I believe in the higher source, everything comes from up above in my life. I don't have to go listen to this a presentation. I look at YouTube, some spiritual guidance, but most of it comes from myself. You got to do the work too. A lot of us have to do. That's why I read, I pray myself. I'm thankful. I thank God myself. You guys will see the big changes in my life. I don't have to go and say this, say that. And just like you guys, did you guys finally get a PhD? And the same Aaron Moni told me, yeah, we're a couple cities over. We're in a good place. I'm telling you, we just gotta settle in. Good place right here, man. We got our place. You start empty, then you're gonna be full, just like the way I was, the way I am right now. I just had me a meal. Boom. And I had some fruit. Yeah. Thank you, Keisha. We got our place, you know. Thank you, sis. You know, we're praying for you. Get yours. You know, healing your body. You know, do what you gotta do. I'm telling you, there's a lot of things. You know, follow Big D. You know, there's a lot of presentation. I told you guys, you know, like today, I'm telling y'all, I put my faith in God. You know, so when you guys see the blessings, like, how did D do it? How did D do it? You guys know I follow. There's my answer, right here. I trust right here in the good word, you know. It don't say nothing. It talks about the beginning, right, in the book of Genesis, and it talks about the end, you know, Revelation. That's where I live. That's where I live my life, peeps. You know, the beginning, there's no in between, you know. In between is good structure, guidance. That's what it is. But I live my in the beginning, the end. You know, I got time for sometimes in the middle. Unless you leave me good guidance, and let's talk about it. You know, it says all nice to be in your own home. It is, man, because there's a lot of people that are out there, and it's cold. I can't see people that are out there, you know, that don't have a place. You know, it's sad, man. And it costs, you know, but what doesn't cost, you know, these people, that's what happens when you don't have, you know, guidance, you know, you don't listen. So, you know, you're out there doing your own thing. You want to go out there, do your thing and freeze your butt off and live what you want to live. But hey, there's a lot of people out there like that, you know, begging, you know, don't be the beggar, you know. Don't be, you know, asking for this, asking for that. You know, like the Bible says, you know, be the lender, not the borrower. But it's good to give, you know, give to give. Man, there's a lot of things that we have, man, that we're gonna be involved in, where we're gonna give back to the community. It's all about giving back, man. It's all about giving back. And it says it is, especially seeing vets homeless mostly. That's what gets me. You know, people period that are out there, you know, not and vets too, you know, vets, they deserve more, but they choose, you know, people have choices. They choose to be out here, you know. And that's the thing that gets me, like, how could you settle for that? You know, people settle for little. That's why you gotta preach and teach, you know, people to settle for more, because so many people that will settle for the little. No, it's all about settling for more, you know, have more expectation, have more of this, more of that. You want more. You don't want to settle for the less, you know, people do, you know, because that's what they're introduced to. That's how they grew up. Oh, I'll just settle for this. No, I settle for the more. You know, I was always told by the family that you need more, you need to get more, you know, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. That's where people are like, all right. I look at Love and Grace, you know, go father. She's always settling for more, you know, that's why she's every education. That's why I'm thankful for her, because, you know, she don't settle for the less, she settles for the more. We gotta do this, we gotta do that. Like, all right. That's why she owns her own business. She does what she does, and I just follow, you know, because she has a lot of stuff that means stuff. You know, it may not make sense in the beginning, but it makes sense in the end. It always does. What's up, people? But, you know, Big D, just right here, just settling. That's what we're teaching the young one, you know, to settle for the more, don't settle for the less. Because they look at you. How many of y'all know that, you know, I see stories all that. Well, my father was alcoholic and my mother was a drug addict, like, and they settle for the less. Like, there's more to life than alcohol and drugs, man. You see, true, but those ones get the most problem is people can't afford the rent these days. It's not because they don't get involved in these things. It's true, man. You know, if you go serve our country, they should have some kind of program, you know, that is for these people that go out there, which is not. That's why I trip out on, you know, like right now, right? We're in what do you call that? Where the bill, the people are not, our government workers are not getting paid. You know, they're not getting paid, and they're still out there, you know, defending, cleaning, you know, working, and I'll pay after. Like, nah. Like, how could you think of me second? That's how I know, you know, this world's corrupt and crooked. You know, it could be like that. It shouldn't be like that. You know, it shouldn't be. It should be on it at all times. You know, everything should be open. I don't believe in closed doors. I believe in open doors. You know, have your doors open. You know, don't shut your doors, man. Because that's the way the world. And how they get like that? Because we have been told like that. Shut your door on this. Shut your door on that. Nah. Have open doors. You know, open doors are opportunities. You know, Should I even if people share a home? That's the way people are living right now. They're living with the relatives, They can't afford it, Open your doors. Don't be like it's true. Have your doors open, But so I get it. Some people can't live with other people. I can't live with family members. I can't live. Hey, I get it. Trust me. Because people are different, You may smoke and you don't, and you have a door open. Well, you can stay here, but I don't smoke. And people they'll choose that, They'll choose like, oh, I smoke, because they know they're what they're all about, It's crazy. So I trip out on. I can't do this. I can't do that. Can't you go outside? Like, be respectful. That's all people want is to be respected. That's it. Everything comes with respect, right? And that's why there's a lot of people that are out there because they don't have no respect, Like, don't be partying at my place. You can't stay here. Well, I have nowhere to go. Well, that's your problem. That's what your family is. Sometimes friends are like that. Hey, everybody has standards and rituals. They do what they do. They have a way to do. Some people are not like that. They have a way they go to bed at a certain time. They do this at a certain time, and that's how they function at a certain time. And you got to be respectful towards that. I don't like living with a roommate. Even kids got on my nerves. It's been so peaceful now that no one's that sons are gone. Okay, all right. Sometimes like that, your closest ones, man. I'm telling you, could be the ones that give you the hardship. And that's why you got to be a good role model, show them love and compassion. There ain't no division, separation, there ain't none of that. And that's the way most of the way the world is, We have the bad side of stuff. Well, I feeling like this, or why you like that? And it causes separation, causes division. It's like, no, 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 no. Like, no. What happened to to the understanding, the togetherness? That's why I trip out on some people, some programs, like they have right here, right? You could be in a foster caring unit, right, until you turn 18, and they throw you out there. They didn't teach you a darn thing. They didn't teach you how to survive. They didn't teach you about your savings. They didn't teach they just throw you out there, and then you're a statistic, right? You're homeless. You're rebellious. You're a thief. You're a criminal. And you become it's crazy, man. That's why it's very important if you have kids, raise them right. Teach them right. Don't teach them wrong. I don't want to hear like, oh, well, my dad was alcoholic. My mother. I grew up without parents, but my mom showed me the right way, right? She introduced me to. So I know my mother loved me enough to introduce me. Now I had to do my work. I had to read and teach, to teaching my young one. That's the way it is. In good standards, right? I mean, they don't even do it. Not even schools are, they're fighting against that to teach you that, right? That's why a lot of people are confused. They're teaching the genders. There's a lot of confusion. And it's like, man, we don't do that. What happened to our old standards? What we used to believe in, the way we were raised. That's why people say things have changed. They have changed dramatically. My pops was just not a father. Period. Hey, I grew up without a dad. I grew up with a stepfather, to tell you the truth, and we didn't get along, in the beginning. But now we're like inseparable. It's cool, man. That's where respect comes in. And that's what causes a lot of standards. It's very believable that you got to go by standards because he's just like me. Works, hard labor, has pain, has suffering, sweats, and that's where it comes at. As Keisha says, I'm the youngest of two girls, and I should have been daddy's little girl, but I never ever. Never, because he's gone now, and even though he's gone, it doesn't even bother me. It's going to kill me more. It says when my mom goes because me and her are close. Okay, and some of us are raised like that, daddy's girl, daddy's boy, and there's no favoritism. That's why I noticed there's no favoritism. You could be the first, you could be the last. Don't show expectations and like who's first and who's last. It shouldn't be like that. Everybody's the same standard, If you have 2 kids, 3 kids, keep it neutral, love them the same. Don't say because you were born first. Because if you do something wrong, you could, the parents would be, well, he's my firstborn. I'm mad at him. He didn't take care of me. It's like, nah, it's not even like that, right? People are judgmental, You gotta be where you treat everybody the same way. I treat everybody the same. I don't go different from anybody. I keep it all neutral. I keep it respectful and keep it neutral. I don't say because you're my firstborn, you're gonna get more benefits. I don't get that. I don't do things like that. Oh, you're my first friend, so I'm gonna treat you better than my second friend. Who does that? And there's people that are like that. The system's like that, right? You're the first victim, so you'll be my second. You're my first. It's not. The world is trippy, man. It has its own standards, So I can't imagine how people go through, but it's cool though, If that's how you feel in some sense, you gotta do what you gotta do. Then hey, do what you gotta do, and that's all cool. Randy Jean, what's up, sister? Says, hey, that's my sister right there. What it do? What it do? And we haven't even met, And Randy Jean's to our family, to us, to me and my wife. We treat her. She has prayer requests and prayer. She has testimonies where she's come through, what she's been through. That's why go follow the homegirl. If anything, go follow the homegirl, but be respectful. She'll tell you. Good to see you, girl. That's my hero. Hey, all we did support. That's all we do, support and pray. She goes by her own standards. And Randy Jean's a living testimony to what things could be. And not to say things have been easy, things come hard. She'll tell you there's been some hardship in her family, but we keep praying. We believe in positivity. We believe in security, sticking together. Sometimes you got to walk the walk, and it ain't easy. It only gets easier, right? Through the word, because ain't gonna lie. Everything that you go through in life is in here, man. I'm telling you, from the good through the bad to the days. And that's what we go through, and that's how I live our life, Love and grace. I make sure the head of the house, I tell her, hey, I'm the head, you're the tail, but she knows where she's at, I don't treat her like that at all, a lot of times she's doing the things, she's the head, she's standards, she has her way of living, so I let her be. She has her friends, she has her job, she has her, hey, go do what you gotta do. I don't treat her like, oh, you gotta be this and this and that, not because, and then she'll be submissive somewhere else, and then you're all mad because they're treating her a certain way, and you're like, what the heck? Not being positivity, everything he did. He says, it's always babies are young as not my fault or his, brothers. It's true. Randy says, Keisha, it's hard being a mama hugging you. It ain't easy, man. Women should have it. You guys have it rough, man. Thanks to Eve, You guys give birth, but it's a blessing at the same time. You guys go through a lot of physical, mental. Trust me, I live with one. You are feeling, Keisha says, hope you're feeling well, Randy. Yep. Keisha says, no lies, Randy, no lies. Women go through a lot, man. That's why us men, the hubbies, you gotta be very supportive to the ones that take care of the family, that put it together. That, and I look at mine as a lioness. She has the family together. When it's time to be violent, she's gonna fight for hers. She has fought. We have fought, not physically, but mentally. There's been some yeses and nos that we disagreed upon, but she's a lioness. She has a way of living, and I respect that. Because she has put out there. A good demonstration, illustration. When people are out there and they show themselves, they illustrate themselves, then that's where you got to respect people at, because where they come. They're gonna fight for theirs, and I believe in that. She has fought for hers. Mine has come from a long way. Other people, like Randy says, that's her prayer word right there, and that's what we do. She could live far, but my prayers don't go that far. If you're going through something, hey, blessing and praise to you guys. It's that easy. We get on our knees, and in my prayers, I can say, yes, Lord, thank you for Randy Jean and her her relationship and her children. That's all it takes. It's something simple. What comes out of your mouth is true. You hear it. The Bible talks about that, right? All the time. Whatever comes out of your mouth, good or negative. I don't curse anybody. I pray for positivity about everybody. 2 doctor appointment, 15 breast CT scan. That's right. You're healed. Simple words. Randy Jean, you're healed, sister. You're healed. You're healed because you're a positive person, you're a trustworthy person, you believe in God, and you believe what's right, so God has your back, That's the things that you're supposed to express. A lot of times, we're on the streets, you're like, I got your back, homie, I got your back. Like, you don't got my back. Where were you that day? It trip out. When homies go to prison and you don't write them, you don't send them anything, like, I got your butt, I got your back. Words could be you know, have words of encouragement, not discouragement. You know, that's all it takes. You know, it's like when you tell somebody I love you, hey, that's words of encouragement. They believe it, right? Because everybody wants to be loved, you know, and only God could give that kind of love, you know, an expression, you know, because He's the Creator, you know, He loves us, you know, and that's what I go based on. Yes, God has made you strong, sis. Yes, you're strong. Randy's a strong person, you know. She'll go out, set breakfast, dinner, just like mine, and she'll go out there and create things for children at the same time. Trip on her sometimes. I go on her live, y'all, and be respectful, you know. As a little sister, you wanna link up with. Don't go over there, because you know she dance. She does her thing. She does her thing. That's it. Until we meet, you know, that's the way it is. And we meet because we met a lot of people before, and she's a good sister, you know. You guys will see us together. I don't surround myself, you know, with negative people at all. I'm telling you guys, everybody could be negative. I could be negative myself, you know. Kicking it with Beanlo, that's another good homie. Tap in to hit that like button real quick. I send my big D. That's another brother right there. If you guys go check him out, subscribe, all that. Kicking it with Beanlo, that's another good brother right there. And I met him too, and he lives, you know, up north, which is positivity, right? When we met, we kicked it, we hung out, man, we chilled, and he took me to a place by the beach where I didn't even know existed, you know? That's how it goes. That's how you know you roll with the good ones. You know, you go out there and you just be yourself, you know? He took me to a place by the beach, you know, where Big D likes it. And, you know, he invited me, and I just showed up. That's all I did. Just showed up. So kicking it, go and make sure you subscribe to that. That's a homie right there, 209, and hook up right there. Be positive, you know. Don't be negative, you know. It's a cool channel right there, and I go out there. I like the brother. You know, I respect him. Prayers for him too. But that's what I'm telling you, people. I don't fake it. I just, you know, everybody wants to be like Big D, you know. Hugs all rock day, and that same bright. That's right. That's the boy right there. That's all it is, you know. You surround yourself with positivity. It's just like, you know, like you go to church, you know, church is over, you say, all right, God bless you. I say this, blessings to everybody, man. What's up? That's the way it is, man. You surround yourself with positive people. Never surround yourself with negative people, because anybody and everybody, a lot of people are negative, especially on this YouTube, man. So you guys seen, you know, the short that I have. Hey, I just respect people. I tell them what's up. God bless you. And they respect me. They're Big D, come over this. I ain't a positive person or one of those speakers. I ain't your pastor. I know that if you want me to be that, then hey, come over and we could hit that like button. It's all good right here, you know, because I believe in positivity. I don't believe in negativity and all that. I don't. It says, you rock yours, Randy. Tap into G tonight if you can. Playlist. Okay. There it is. And that's where it is, you know. That's what we do. That's all I do, you know. Go in there and be positive, you know, to positive people. I make my extensions. I go out there and tell people to be supportive, you know, because that's all I know how to do. I don't know how to be negativity, and you know, if I leave, I have to, because hey, sometimes the big homies out, hey, you gotta go. Imagine like that. I'm like that with the homies too. I have homeboys calling me still, you know. I pray for them, you know. The people on the street are gang banging to the fullest, you know. And I gotta bless my brothers, because I gotta know where I come from, just like, you know, and they're my fruits, you know. I go out there, I give them a blessing. Hey, your homie Big D's here. I just do things a little different. You guys see me, you know, kicking it with the homies and chilling. You know, I could do that, and I have my presentation with them. You know, I don't have to be negative, or be something I ain't. I don't have to be that person. The homies call me, hey, you're over here, kick it with us, all right? You know, pray for us, you know, and I do that. You guys see me with my homies a couple of weeks ago. That's all we do, you know. I don't forget where I come from or who I kicked it with and all that. No, I go there. What happened, babe? You're okay? You're good? And that's how I do it, you know. I make friends and peace with all your subscribers, you know. Come on, with my homies and my family, you know, I gotta be 100 with them, you know. There ain't no backlash. I don't get no threats from the homies. All this, I guess, positive. Keep doing what you're doing. That's it. That's all I could do. Bear good fruit. People know you by your fruits, man. They all say they're your homie till the end. Till you get locked up, and then nowhere. A lot of them could be like that. That's all you hear, you know. I didn't have to, you know, go through that kind of walk, you know. I did a lot of things, but I didn't have to go. When I went to jail, it was temporary. I didn't go for a long time, and I didn't ask him for, But I know they're out there for you because a lot of homies, they're going through stuff too, And what you ask, you gotta know what you're doing. You gotta know what you're doing. Who you saying you're. I don't expect them to give you this or to break that. You gotta know what you're doing because most of them are from the streets and they ain't gonna give you what's less. They're barely making it in themselves. I said you better go call mama back. I'll call mama. She hasn't texted me. I'll call her after. She could call the other half. She called Moni. She called Loving Grace if it was important. She's part of my life. Hi mom, what's up? God bless you. she, but I don't live by that. I'm telling you, I don't live by a structure. This ain't no prison channel. If anything, it'd be a spiritual channel. Uplifting channel. That's all it is. So much negativity. We want to see each other in our downfall. Like, nah, you gotta be like that. I'm all about positivity, uplifting. That's what I do. I'm not here to put anybody down or to judge. I don't do that. Only God can judge. It's true. And God brings judgmental, upon people on what you do. That's why there's prayers and forgiveness. That's why I believe in the word, trustworthy stuff, I believe in God's power, because, if I was a judgmental person, this would be a judgmental channel, but it's not like that. All the people have coming on, look at them, people are going to the same thing. I ain't no better than anybody. I'm telling y'all, I ain't no better than anybody. How I do stuff. You come on here, you can say, well, I do this better and I have this better and I'm this and I'm that. Well, that's you, you put yourself there. All right. I'm not a bragger. I do a lot of things differently. Cause I was not like that on the streets. I understand, if anything, I understand where people come from. There's hardship, I had, especially without a physical father. I had a spiritual father, which is God, but a physical father. That's why God puts a man here to teach his kids. You could be a father and a mother. So a lot of us have grown like that. Oh, my mother was a drug addict and my dad was an alcoholic, and you guys seen them, but believe it or not, that's where forgiveness starts at, right? You got to forgive them, pray for them, introduce them where they can show them that, hey, I was not like that, Hold on. I always hear my father wasn't there. Hey, dads, they get up and they leave, whatever them and your moms pack up too and they're gone. Whatever that extortion you've been through, you have a testimony because it wasn't easy for you. Just like a lot of us, it wasn't easy for us, right? You're not the only one that's been through it, we all been through. We all come from the same. Nobody has come from something different. I never heard that. We all come from the same sorrow, the same background, but the same uplifting too. It's up to you if you want to. If you're an uplifting person, that's where it starts at. That's all I could be is an uplifting person. I can't be no more. I can't be your dad. I can't be your this, and I can't be your hubby. I'm already married. No, I don't do that. That's all the dads. Like I said, they're, my family. I heard, my mom, my dad were they had a disagreement, and my dad went out to go party with the homies, and that's when the reality came in. But we all had the same stories, man. Ain't nobody different out here. That's why nobody should be better than anybody. Everybody's the same way. That's why the Bible says it. We live by those structures and those standards. There's corruption in here, but it starts within us. We try to blame God. We give the devil too much structure. Nah, it starts within us. That's why I'm out here teaching y'all. That hey, start your day with a good meal, good Bible. Read a verse, it'll teach you something, change your ways from those structures. And look at the way the world is, Freedom of speech, I don't even know if it's freedom. You can get killed for it. Look what happened to the homie. And we were over there in Arizona when I stayed with my brother. I was staying with my brother. We went to the facility. It was packed that day. We're all about being supportive. You could die for what you believe in. A lot of people die for what they believe in, and some people are like, nah, that's not me, right? Like Peter in the Bible, it wasn't me. You're gonna deny me 3 times. Nah, I ain't. When it came down to it, he denied God. That's why I laugh. That's why the Bible's funny, man. Sometimes, not funny in that standard, but it's funny how people are sometimes, because it tells you the way, some people they'll be. And that's why Tupac says only God can judge you. And some standards, you can believe in that, but judgment comes in the home. Tupac forgot to say that. You can see things, all my kids, where you're supposed to, judgment comes. If you're doing something wrong, a lot of judgmental comes in. What's up? That's what I do, If I don't like what I see, I'm gonna be judgmental towards it, If you're being, not to say that, here's an example. If my daughter was being violated or disrespected, I'm gonna judge and be like, hey, you can't do that. And it comes in the home, man. Judgment starts with us first. The Bible says, we gotta know what's coming in our home and what's coming out of our home. Tupac was somewhat right, but somewhat wrong. He didn't say it was really, where it comes from. I ain't saying he was wrong, but he should show his standards. There's more than what Tupac says. The Word of God says, this and that. But I believe judgmental starts in the home. For the most part, you gotta see, like the movies. You be kicking back and you bringing people and they're partying and all that. Like, nah, judgmental. I have to be the one that says, hey, it don't start. Only God can judge. I have to be judgmental too, and judgmental in the home. If you know your kids are doing wrong, then you gotta be judgmental, right? That's where as parents, we're judgmental, because we see what's right and what's wrong, and we gotta make sure we're providing the right sources, not the wrong sources. So, shout out to that one, Keisha. What's that? What are you looking for? Oh. But yeah, that's cool, But like I said, everybody's different. Everybody does, how you raise your kids, what you put out there. And trust me, man, I've been around a lot of people, their kids are around, they do this, they do that. It's more than just drinking and doing drugs, It's being disrespectful to the women, to the moms, It's just, I seen it with my own eyes. It taught me not to be like that, That's why I have a lot of, with my daughter, I give her a lot of grace, like, okay, this, that, but I make sure I be judgmental at the same time, not to judge how the way she's living, but to structure her into positivity. Like, in other words, be judgmental, Do I tell her to go to church? Of course I do. Does she? Sometimes she does, and sometimes she doesn't, because she has her own standards. The way her living is different from the way we can only do so much, but I want her to know that I've been a positive role model, right? That's why they know you by your fruits, It's like you be you're being that example. That's what you want to do, to be a positive. There's a lot of negative examples. Trust me, man. Going around, I tell the homies, that's your mom and your dad? Yeah, all right. How could your mom and dad, have a room for you that you could sleep in, and they treat your kids like crazy? That's why I trip on it. Like, they'll cook for you, but they won't cook for the kids. They're like it trips me out, because the relationship, you have, towards, have that right relationship, tell them that you love them, tell them you care for them, tell them thank you, that's all people are looking for. That's all people are looking for, the simple respects, to be thankful, to be encouraged, just the word, hey, thank you for that. It's, the positive things, just be positive, the simple things. You don't have to have this and have that to be this, to be that. It's the simple things that make you positive, man. People think I had to do it. No, just say, just tell somebody you love them, and you get a like for that, The same, it's a song all day long, the same song. That's what it is, That's all it is. Sing the right song, That's why oldies are forever, because it talks about love, compassion, forgiveness, But nobody wants to talk about the ruthlessness, structure, Back in the days, some people do, like the homie Eazy-E, they'll tell you, hey, my mom was this, my mom was that, but too much. Got the little ones out right now. Hey, Garrett. Oh, Big D don't just have one. Big D has two. The young ones. That's funny, because I say no to these little ones, because they come with a lot of responsibilities. Pocket-wise, you got to buy them food and this and that. But at the same time, you can't be judgmental, because it's what keeps the other one happy, And you can't keep everybody happy, you know. You gotta keep yourself. That's what's important in life. Keep yourself happy. Because you keep yourself happy, then you can keep everybody happy. In most standards, you know. If they see misery, misery loves comfort, man. I'm telling you, I don't do that. I bring supportivism, love, compassion, forgiveness. Understanding is another one, man. A lot of times we don't understand, but I understand that my young one loves cats, or she likes. I didn't even know. Okay, you can have them, but you're gonna take care of them. You're gonna pay for this. You're gonna do this. You're gonna do that. They're your mine. But the other ones, long enough, I gotta take them out to use the restroom, and a lot of responsibilities, and that's what life's all about. A lot of responsibility. Take care of your responsibility. Do what you gotta do. It says in the good word, right? There's a lot of responsibilities. Be a good mother, be a good father. Provide for your family, man. Teach. Our job is to teach the young ones, man, what we have, what we create, what God has created. Giving us the responsibilities, to take care of our young ones, what we teach them. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of discomfort out there. I go around a lot of my homeboys and I see the difference. Like I said, your mom and your dad, they'll put a blanket out for you, but they'll give me a blanket. It's crazy, man. I seen some crazy. Listen, my dad done that. It's the same song, they're living, that's what they know. Do you know if their mom taught them this, or do you know if their mom taught them that? Because I look at my grandparents, that's who I was raised by. Even though we have differences, I listened to my grandparents because they showed me that they loved me because my grandmother loved my mother and was responsible for her. It was able for me to connect with my grandparents, because they show me love and compassion, the right and wrong of life. That's why I'm very respectful towards older people, towards grandparents. Like, love your grandparents the way you love your parents, man. Put that as the same song. You gotta love your grandparents, man, because they're there for you. I want to see my young one. I have a daughter. I want to be a grandpa to my grandparents. I don't want them to have any division, separation, anger. I want to show them love, man. Those are you, our grandparents. Salute to you 100 respectfully. Because it ain't easy. You think you're getting rid of your kids, but you got your grandkids, right? And that's what's cool. Show some love, show some love. Crazy, little boy. You want to play 2 in the morning? Where your parents at? Where your parents at? Just like, hey, we live our life like animals. Oh my, they gave me away. What's up, P? It's been like an hour. You guys had a little fellowship. A fellowship with Big D. Richard, you guys are scared. You guys have breakfast with me. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you guys for being here. You guys give me a thumbs up. Love that. We're in a session of Dr. Pepper. We're in a session. Don't forget to thank you, Keisha, to watch the Dodgers today, man. Dodgers coming out, right? We already won game 1. Beat LA. No, you can't. Beat LA. No, you can't. So this hour. Appreciate Keisha, who's been on my live this morning. I'm coming back doing lives, and I'm telling you, follow Big D. Got more things to come. A lot more things to come. But be respectful. One thing, be respectful. It's been an hour. In some sense, I don't even stay on this long. Sometimes I cut it short for being here with me this time. You guys were with me the whole time in the shorts. I had what I had for breakfast. We read the Bible together. I'm just trying to bring positivity to you guys. That's all I'm trying to do. I ain't trying to bring. It'd be different, Big deal is like, hey, you want to be stoned, you want beer? No, what I'm trying to bring to you is positivity. Because anybody could bring you negativity, I'm just trying to bring you guys with positivity. That's all. right? It's a good fellowship, good testimonies. You guys will come out here and explain what you're going through, kind of like Sister Keisha said, hey, there's something, what she prays for, what she believes in, what she's going through, it's positivity. Ain't no negativity right here. Ain't no judgmental, right here. This is a Big D's channel. You can say what you got to say, just be respectful, Salute to everybody everybody's family right here, man. You guys have a blessed day. Hit that like button. It's all for my subscribers. It's what we do. Just keep aware, keep pointing, make sure you like and subscribe, because Big D's gonna do more. No, I want you guys to say, oh, you're doing this, you're doing that. And like, hey, you sure? I have a good heart, just like a lot of us do, right? A lot of us have to work on it, be invited to it, If I say, hey, come down where we're doing this, and I expect you guys to come down. Just like I tell you guys, go to your local churches, man, get that 10%, Churches don't run them. It costs us a little bit of money too, Not everything's free. It costs a dollar there. That's what we've been doing. That's what I've been doing, right? Positivity. I don't surround myself with negativity. I surround myself with positivity. And that means, I go to the church. If they have the church open, hey, prayers for today, then I'll go pray. I have a lot to pray for. I don't surround myself with negativity. That's easy. I'm telling you, it's easy to be negative, right? It's easy, but it's all about positivity, right? Salute to you guys, man. It's been an hour. Big D's been on for an hour. I call Mom's back, see what she wants. But God bless you guys, man. I love you guys. Hit that like button for all my subscribers. What we do, positivity. I'll see you guys later. What?